Somewhere in your kitchen cabinet right now is a supplement bottle you bought at 1 in the morning after watching exactly one YouTube video, and you have no idea if any of it reaches your brain. But today, we're going to go through 12 ingredients one at a time, and by the end of this video, one of them is going to make a lot more sense than it did 5 minutes ago. So let's go. And let's start with Alpha GPC, which sounds like a rejected Star Wars droid, but is actually one of the more interesting compounds in this whole lineup. Now, Alpha GPC is a choline compound, which means it's a raw material your brain actually uses to make acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter responsible for memory, focus, and the ability to remember why you walked into this room. And I bring that one up specifically because it happens to me constantly. And I'm a pharmacist, so you would think I'd have some kind of professional immunity, but I don't. At 100 milligrams, Alpha GPC is a modest dose, not the mega dose you'd see in a straight cognitive decline study, but it plays well with others, which matters more than people think, because most of what we're talking about today isn't a solo act. It's a supporting cast doing quiet, unglamorous work in the background. And speaking of supporting cast, if you're the kind of person who likes knowing what you're actually putting in your body instead of just trusting the guy in a lab coat on the internet, well, hit like and subscribe, because that's exactly what we do here. It costs you nothing. It takes 2 seconds, and it makes the YouTube algorithm think I'm popular, which at my age, I will take any help I can get. All right, moving on. Next up, L-theanine, 200 milligrams, which is the amino acid found in green tea that lets monks sit still for 6 hours without checking their phone. It doesn't sedate you. It doesn't knock you out. It just quietly turns down the noise in the room. And think of it as taking the jittery edge off caffeine without taking away the caffeine itself, which is a neat trick if you could pull it off. And it just so happens we've got the perfect partner for it sitting right next door on this ingredient list: green coffee. 100 milligrams, which, despite the name, isn't a different type of coffee bean. It's just regular coffee bean that hasn't been roasted yet. So it holds on to more of its natural chlorogenic acid before roasting breaks a lot of it down. And it gives you a gentler lift than a full cup of regular coffee, less of the jittery crash an hour later, more of the slow, even burn. And pair that with the L-theanine from 30 seconds ago, and you've got a combination that a lot of nootropic companies charge $40 for and call revolutionary. We just called it Tuesday. And if you're keeping score, that's 3 ingredients in, and we still haven't gotten to the one everyone actually clicked on this video for: patience. It's coming. It's always coming. Now, let's speed run the vitamin roster, because otherwise we're going to be here all day. Vitamin C helps your brain manage oxidative stress, which is basically the rust that builds up from just being alive, and in my case, from getting armbarred twice a week by a 19-year-old blue belt who has zero respect for my 30 years of healthcare experience. Anyway, now on to vitamin B12 and B6, which keep your nerve cells firing correctly and are 2 of the most common deficiencies in adults over 40, especially if you've ever taken an acid reducer for more than a few weeks, which statistically, a lot of you watching this have. Niacin supports the energy production happening inside every single one of your brain cells right now, including the ones currently wondering when I'm going to get to the point. And pantothenic acid, otherwise known as vitamin B5, helps convert your food into usable energy your brain can actually spend. And chromium supports healthy blood sugar regulation, which matters for your brain more than most people realize, because your brain runs almost entirely on glucose and does not appreciate a roller coaster of a blood sugar spike followed by a crash at 2 in the afternoon. And think of that vitamin roster as the stage crew of a Broadway show. Nobody buys a ticket to see them. Nobody's chanting their name at the end. But the whole show falls apart the second they walk off the job. Okay, deep breath. We've made it through 11 ingredients, and I want you to notice something. Every single one of them is solid in its own right, but none of them is the one with the strongest research behind it right now. And that one, I've made an entire section of this channel about. And if you've been here before, you already knew it was coming from the first 10 seconds of this video, because I am, and I fully admit this, extremely predictable about it. Creatine, monohydrate. 5 grams, and here it is, the one you've been waiting for. And here's what I need you to understand, because I said this exact same thing to my own patients for years, and I was flat out wrong. For most of my career, creatine was filed under one category and one category alone: muscle supplement. Full stop. End of discussion. 22-year-olds, gym bros, protein shakes, that whole world. And what almost nobody was talking about, including me, is that your brain runs on the exact same energy system as your muscles. Same phosphocreatine battery, same rapid ATP regeneration, just happening between your ears instead of in your biceps, which in my case are doing considerably less impressive things these days than they used to. And the research on this has moved fast, faster than most supplements ever get the privilege of moving. And a study using real-time brain imaging during sleep deprivation found that creatine changed high energy phosphate levels in the brain and improved cognitive performance under exactly the kind of mental fatigue most of us are running on by Thursday afternoon on maybe 4 hours of sleep. A meta-analysis focused specifically on older adults, not college kids, found meaningful memory improvements in that population, people in their 60s and 70s. That is not a small thing. That is a supplement originally sold to help you squat more, quietly showing up in serious research about protecting your memory as you age. And honestly, if a 1980s gym bro could see where his creatine ended up, he'd probably be very confused and a little proud. 5 grams a day, no loading phase, no complicated 28-day ramp-up protocol, no measuring spoons that require a chemistry degree, just a small scoop that's been sitting quietly in gym bags since the 90s, turning out to be one of the more interesting brain compounds we currently have real evidence for. It's inexpensive. It is one of the most studied supplements on the planet, and it has a safety record most prescription medications would kill for, which, as someone who has spent 30 years reading medication safety data for a living, is not a sentence I say lightly. If you want a version of creatine that's already stacked with the choline, the theanine, and the rest of what we just walked through, instead of you buying 6 different tubs and hoping they all decide to play nice together in your stomach, that's basically what we built new creatine to be. No pressure at all. It's on the wait list right now. And even if you never buy a single thing from us, take the creatine, please. I'm asking you as a pharmacist and as a man with genuinely bad knees who wishes someone had told him this 20 years ago. And tagatose deserves a mention too. It's the sweetener in this mix, and it behaves like sugar on your tongue, but like almost nothing at all on your blood sugar, which is the kind of quiet win nobody throws a parade for, but everybody benefits from. There's early research looking at tagatose in the context of dementia prevention, tied to its effects on blood sugar stability and gut health. And I'll be honest, that research is still young. Nobody's calling tagatose a brain supplement on its own. But as far as sweeteners go, it's doing more for you than what's sitting in your sugar bowl. So there you have it. 12 ingredients, one clear winner, in a brain that, if you actually follow through on this instead of just nodding along, might just remember where you put your keys for once. And as always, talk to your doctor before starting anything new, especially if you're already on other medications, because I'm a pharmacist, not your pharmacist, and I take that distinction seriously. And I'll see you in the next one.